Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another lecture in audio production techniques. And in today's lecture, we are going to look at audio mixers. So, so how we have been looking at various topics in this course is about sort of starting from the origin point of sounds and then looking at the various stages through which sound can go through in a production environment. So, sound mixers come next because we have previously looked at microphones and previous to that about audio signals and so on. So today we will be focusing on audio mixers and how the basic concepts of audio mixers work. So given that this is there is a significant practical component to this one, which we may not be able to do in the current format of lectures. But the main thing to understand is the concept that we learn here does not only apply to like physical audio mixers. The same concepts would also apply when we are dealing with audio mixers inside a digital audio workstation, for example. So conceptually, they would be fairly similar. And when we get back to the faculty and when we get to do practicals again, even if it is not in the same semester, we will spend some time with a physical audio mixer and get some practicals done like that. But other than that, we'll start with the lesson now. So the main idea behind a mixer, behind an audio mixer, is about it can take two or more audio signals and then combine them together to produce a single output or more than one output. So it's basically the main task that happens inside an audio mixer would be combining of this number of signals. And in addition to that, they will do a number of other functionalities such as signal processing, effects processing, adjustment of audio levels, equalizations, frequency-based equalization, and a number of other functionalities we'll come to discuss later on. But the main thing to remember is like we may start with a number of inputs, so from various devices, various sound sources, and then we may combine them into a number of outputs, again depending on the need that we may have. So that is the basic idea behind an audio mixer. So when we think about audio mixers, we can identify a number of common applications where we may be using audio mixers. So these are things like in live performances or like music performances, in sort of events, in television studios, for example, or even when we are doing, say, a film shoot or some form of outdoor production environment where we may be doing a live sound, maybe. So it doesn't always have to be music related or sound related only. It can also be a significant part of video related work as well. So there could be a significant application of audio mixers in video production environments as well. So again, in all these cases, it will be about combining a number of sound sources depending on what are the different criteria that we may have, and then producing a combined output with sort of varied levels of mixes and so on. So again, when we think about mixers, we will have, say, variety of sizes of mixers, variety of number of inputs, number of input outputs. So a lot of things can dictate the different categories of mixers that we may come across. And in addition to this, we may come across analog mixers, digital mixers, which may process sound differently internally. They may be able to you may be able to connect to them differently. In one of the previous lectures, we discussed about how sound can be carried on sort of various networking infrastructures. So there would be mixers that may support such protocols, such as, say, Dante or like one of those protocols. So we may have mixers that may have very sort of significantly varying capabilities. So like a basic mixer, it should at least have two sound inputs and a single sound output. So that could be a basic form of a mixer. But beyond that, we could have any number of inputs, expandable number of inputs, and so on. So we will identify two main concepts in mixers, like two main parts of mixers. We will, whatever mixer that we get, we'll be able to categorize or split them into two parts, and they may do two different things. So one is what we call channel strips, and the other one is what we call buses. We will look at these in a bit more detail later on, but the main thing to understand is channel strips are these duplicates where things they may carry input signals or various other internal input signals, and they are the ones that are going to do processing for that. And then buses are basically destinations or sort of outputs. So we can sort of vaguely sort of categorize them as channel strips as sort of input parts and buses as output parts. That may not be true all the time, but sort of that may be true most of the time, or like fairly just to understand it easily. So like for example, what we may have is, say, if we look at a large mixer like this, what we may see is, say, we may have a number of input channels or like things that are repeated like this. So that is what we would identify as a channel strip on a mixer. And then we may have a number of buses that we could identify as related to various output possibilities. So that's why we say like it could be relevant to an input and output channel, or input and output part of the mixer, the channel strip and buses. But we will discuss them a bit more detail. So when we say channel strip in a mixer, what we would have is we would be having, say, a mixer, and there we would have a number of channel strips, and in most mixers that would be repeating in numbers. So it would be almost like a number of duplicates of the same thing. So that same unit will be repeated to whatever the number of inputs that are supported in that mixer. So say if a mixer supports like 24 inputs, then there will be 24 similar channel strips most of the time. Again, the specificities may significantly differ from mixer to mixer, but we will look at what are some of the common things that we may find in a per channel basis in an input strip. So when we take a single channel strip from a mixer, we can identify a number of common components that we may see in those. So there may be some level of amplification or pre-amplification for inputs that are coming in. Then there may be certain level of signal processing in terms of adding dynamics or compression type effects. We will discuss about signal processing in upcoming lectures. And then there will be some level of distribution. So that is taking a signal and sending it to different parts or different outputs. So that is sort of the main activities that we may find in a per channel basis. And in most mixers, we would be able to sort of see how the channel strips will be organized is they will be in sort of the order of signal flow. So say signal would come from an input, then they may go to certain amplification, then maybe certain effects processing, then certain type of distribution, and so on. But it doesn't always have to be like a vertical mixer. There are mixers that are, say, rack mounted mixers that would be horizontal as well, so it doesn't always have to be vertical. But we may find this type of a form factor of vertical channel strips is a common occurrence in sort of commonly used mixers. So now let's discuss some of the common features that we may find in sort of typical mixers. We may have, so it would start with input. So we would have, say, number of either a single input or like a selectable inputs or like a number of different input possibilities. Say they may have an XLR and a line level input and so on, like say 1/4 jack kind of a thing. So in some mixers it may be selectable, so you can select which is the one that is. In some others it will be like a precedent. So if an XLR is plugged, that will be the higher priority one, and if the other one would be given the second priority. Then after that we would have some level of pre-amplification. So whatever the signal that is coming into the mixer, then there may be some level of gain or pre-amplification to increase the signal level. So if your mic is plugged, whatever the signal that is coming, it may need to be pre-amplified or amplified before it can go into any other processing, because many input signals, especially coming from microphones, will be very lower voltage ranges, so they have to be amplified before any sort of signal processing can occur on them. So that type of pre-amplification can happen next. Again, there can be like switches to differentiate between mic inputs and line level inputs. And then there may be additional things called pad buttons. Again, pad buttons will be there again to choose between, say, line level input or a mic input, to see if it is a line level input, it may add a input gain or input reduction, so that because normally line levels will come at a higher voltage level compared to mic level inputs. And then in certain situations or in certain applications, there may also be possible to have selectors selecting say phase selection. So that is what is the phase of the signal. So that type of possibility is also there in certain mixers. So those are main sort of things that we may be able to select regarding the input signal initially at the top of the channel strip. Then certain mixers, especially that support as microphones, will also have an option to select phantom power. So that is to power microphones that may need voltage to be functioning. so that power can be provided from the mixer, and you may be able to switch that on from a channel strip. In some mixers, it will be switched on for all channels by a single button. In some mixers, it will be per channel basis, and there may be a button to select that. Then you may have a low cut filter. So a low cut filter is again if from the input signal to apply a low cut. So to say cut any frequencies below say 50 hertz or something. So that is what we would do with a low cut filter. So again that feature may be there in certain mixers. Then additionally we may have various dynamics and equalization effects. So such as there may be a compressor component built into the mixer, built into the channel strip, so you may be able to select that to compress that signal. And then equalization, so changing the various frequencies differently. So those things can also be available in these mixers. So again these various dynamics, processing effects and equalization effects, we will discuss them when we discuss audio signal processing in the upcoming lectures. Then in addition to this, most mixers may also support some level of signal distribution, so to speak. So signal distribution is what we mean by signal distribution is, if we have a mixer, if we can send signals from one place to another, and it's like sort of routing, we can sort of assume that as some level of routing, taking signal from one place to the other and so on. So here what we can do is, one option is about what is called inserts. We'll look at inserts a bit later on, but it is about when we want to send something for some level of signal processing. So say if our channel strip doesn't have a particular effect, but we may have an external effects processor that can do some effects, say some echo kind of an effect or something, then we can use a send and receive inserts to send the signal and then receive that back and so on. Then we may have what is called auxiliary sends. So these are again for additional signal processing. Again we will discuss what is the difference between parallel and serial processing, but mainly again here we will send out signal out of our channel strip for external some type of effects processing, or sometimes even various purposes like sort of grouping signals into groups and so on. Then we may do panning. So that is, if we are doing a stereo channel, we may do left and right type of panning, and bus assignments, that is selecting which outputs are applicable for a particular channel strip. And in addition to that, we may have mute buttons, solo buttons and so on. So if a mute button will be used to mute a channel, solo button will be used to only listen to the input that is coming from that channel. And most mixers will also have some form of a fader in the form of a sliding fader or a knob fader to change the main volume that is going out of that particular channel strip. So then let's look at some of the main components that we will find in a channel strip. So one of the things that we said is these inserts. So inserts are basically, we will use them to do some external effects processing, for example. So what we may have is we could send the signal from the channel strip out to an effects unit, and then the output can be again brought back into the mixer. So say it can be any sort of number of effects. So as I said, like say it could be compressors, it could be equalization type effects, it could be echo type, reverberation type effects. So any type, it can be any sort of effects processing. It sends the signal there and receives it back here. So in inserts, the main idea is it sends and then the received thing comes back to the channel strip again. Then the other main component that will be there is the fader section. So normally faders can be either slides or knobs, and they will be there to control the volume level that is going out from a particular channel. So what we would have is, say, how we would normally set up the volume level for a particular channel would be, you would actually initially set the gain level appropriately to have a good sound level from a channel. So what we may do is we could go into, say, the channel strip there and set its volume level. So if it is, say, a microphone that is connected, we would set the level of the microphone. We would increase the gain as much as possible until it doesn't clip anymore, it doesn't peak anymore, and we will leave it at that. And then we will use the sliders to make adjustments at an ongoing basis. So we would not use the gain as an ongoing volume adjuster. We will use the faders for that, but we will use the gain to initially set the volume level for a particular channel strip. Then in most mixers, there may also be options to indicate the volume levels of audio levels of the signals that are going through a particular channel strip. There may be a number of ways this can be displayed, and this is mainly to indicate to anyone who is using the mixer about the level of the signal. So it could be, say, volume units, or it could be peak program meters. But basically what we would see is, in these mixers, they are split into two parts, and we would ideally have a red zone and a green zone, so to speak, and we would want to keep our audio signals normally inside the green zone and never hitting the red zone. So that is the expectation that we would have in these mixers, and that is why we would use this audio meter. In some, like, say, low-end mixers, you may not have a proper full-fledged metering like this. You may have a single or one LED to light up to indicate if it goes into the red zone, or where it clips. When we say clipping, what we mean by is the signal reaches beyond a level where it is going to distort. The signal is going to have distortion in there. So we said the channel strips are about inputs. So now let's look at buses, which we again said are sort of about outputs. So we would use buses for a number of reasons. So we can use them to either to group certain signals to do a common processing. Say if you want to do an effects processing and our mixer has an onboard effects processor or even an outboard effects processor to that matter. If you want to combine all the signals into one and processing it as with a single processor would be much more advantageous. So say for example, if you want to do reverb and if you want to apply the same reverb to a number of microphones, then if we combine all those microphone signals into a single signal and then do a processing, we only need one effects processor. So for those purposes, we may use these buses to group a number of signals together. And another reason why we may want to do is about having various mixes for various reasons. Say for example, we may have a particular type of a mix that goes, say if we think about a live event at a venue, and the audio that is normally going out to the people in the venue, the audience, may be a particular mix. But people who are, if it is, let's say if it is a musical performance, and then different musicians may have different mixers, different monitors to listen to what they are the instruments they are playing, the music that they may be playing, and for each of them we may be able to provide different type of monitor mixers using these buses again. So we can have a number of output, various outputs, and we can use them to create what is called sub mixers. So these mixes can be different from the main mix for whatever the reason we may want to do that. So in most mixers we will have the main out, so that is the main output signal that you would produce. Normally that is the one that would go out to the audience, and then we can create what is called sub out. So these are normally used for stage monitors or other monitoring purposes, so additional outputs. And in certain cases we may have a control room output. Again, this is again another mixer mix output or sub mix output that has a particular purpose there as well, and all of these can be independent. So each of these can have different levels of different input strips, and at each input strip we will be able to select how much volume level that needs to go to each of these different buses. So as we said, one of the main activities that we would do with buses is called grouping. So here what we do is say we can take a number of channel inputs, we can combine them into a subgroup, and then that subgroup goes into the mix. And here for this subgroup we can apply certain things. Say one of the use cases could be if we are miking a drum set and we mic the drum set with a number of mics. So we have a microphone for the snare drum, we have a different microphone for the kick drum, and maybe we have two overhead microphones as well. So there are 4 microphones miking this single drum set. So if that is the case, we can take those 4 microphones and then set their individual levels relatively to create a level for the drum that is acceptable. So that is what we prefer. Then we can combine them together into a subgroup, and now if we want to increase or decrease the volume of the drum set, we just change the volume of this group, or if you want to apply some effects, we only do it to this group. So we don't have to change 4 different things. Now we can change one group. So that is one application where we may want to use buses. So we group them into a bus, and then we control the bus instead of controlling the individual input strips. Another reason why we may want to do is what is called these auxiliaries. So auxiliaries are where, say, how we would have is in the channel strip itself, we would have additional volume. So we may have like a main fader here. So the main fader will change the volume that is going out to the main output, but then we can have a number of auxiliary knobs or fader. Normally they would be knobs, and by changing the level at that auxiliary knobs, that would decide how much sound signal that is going to that particular bus. So we will send some signal to that bus, and then that can be either sent as a monitoring out or even as a effects processor, from which it may even come back to the mix again. And with auxiliaries, we can have what is called this pre and post fade options. So that is, if we select the pre fade option, this level that we set in the auxiliary knobs will be independent from the main fader. But if we set post fader, the selections from the auxiliary bus will be affected by the change we do in the main fader. So what we would have is, say, if the input signal comes and whatever the insert effects and so on, then after that, if we take it from here, so then that is the pre-fade descent. It doesn't get affected by any changes that we do to the fader. But whereas if we take the output after the fader, whatever the changes that we make in the fader will also apply to that auxiliary mix. So there are two ways that we can take auxiliary mix. One is before the fader or the after the fader. Then the third sort of main sort of part that we can identify within mixers is the output section. So in the output section, again, we can have a number of ways we can sort of send these outputs or route these outputs. So we can have a master section that is controlling the output that is going to the main output feed. Then we can have number of monitor feeds or headphone feeds or so on. So various people to listen into at different levels and so on. We can have a number of such outputs going from a particular mixer. And in addition to that, we can have auxiliary sends. So again, as we said, it could be for monitoring purposes or other effects processing purposes. We can have subgroups. Again, as I said, like we can combine a number of strips into a group, like a drum set or something, and then we can control them as a group. And in certain advanced level mixers, we may also have what is called communication or talkback channels. So these are normally used in, say, in recording booths or even in stage application. And any sort of audio that is going through these output channels will not go into the final mix. It will not go into the main output of the audio, but it will be, people could listen into through monitoring, for example. So if you are in a recording booth, for example, you may use these type of channels to communicate with people inside the recording booth and the engineers, and for them to communicate with each other. So if we think about the basic sort of as a whole, the mixer as a whole, we can see the audio flow in a number of ways. So that is, we can start from the input, then we may apply a trim or gain to increase the preamplification or the voltage level or the volume level of the signal. Then we can have inserts where they may go out for signal processing and then come back. Then we may apply, say, low cut or some frequency level filters. Then there we may take two paths. One path can go to what is called the pre-selection of the signal. Then we may apply certain equalization effects. Then we can have a mute switch to disable the channel strip altogether. We can have faders. We can have panning of signals from left to right, and then assignment into different channels. So that is to assigning to different buses, output buses, and so on. Then here we can have what is that pre and post selection going into the auxiliary buses. So again, that is possible. So that this one shows a overall picture of a signal flow in a mixer that we can see. And when we look at it from a point of view with everything else that can exist, what we can see is we can have, say, sound coming from various sound sources into the mixer. Then they go into a number of outputs to different speakers, different output units, recorders, and so on. And in certain outputs, like things are from like effects units and so on, they can come back to the device again and also come into the mixer as inputs. So those are the inserts and so on. So that's all we have to discuss on audio mixers today. So as I said, because we don't have a physical mixer to go through all these things, it may be slightly not so interesting to go through this, but we will get to that when we come back to the faculty again and when we get to do practicals again. So even if it is not in the same semester, we will organize some additional times to go through the mixer there and play with that. So with that, that's all for the lecture today. Maybe after like say about 5 minutes, we can continue with the practical session regarding the coursework that I mentioned last week. But anyone who is not interested in that may not need to stay for that, but others can stay, and if you have any questions, ask me as well. So otherwise, thanks for joining in the lecture. We'll go to the practical in about 5 minutes time.